9A, consideration, discussion, and possible direction regarding City Council filling the vacancy in the office of the council member for Ward 4 for the Broken Arrow City Council, including potentially appointing by a majority vote of the remaining members of council to fill the vacancy until the next general municipal election, or calling for a special election to fill the duration of the unexpired term of the Ward 4 representative. Mr. Spurgeon.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, good evening. As everyone knows, last week, Councilmember Joe Franco submitted his letter of resignation, which was effective at midnight last Friday. And as a result of knowing that we're going to have to fill this, I asked the city attorney, Trevor Dennis, to look at the state statutes that were applicable to the options that the city council has with regard to filling the vacant position. We are a council manager form of government which follows the statutes, so we had to refer to the applicable Oklahoma state statutes. And so what I'd like to do, with your permission, is, because there are two options and there's a lot of what I would call caveats that go with both of those options, I'd like for Trevor to take the time to walk through both the appointment process and also the calling for a special election process. And then after that, answer any questions, and then the council can deliberate how you'd like to go forward accordingly. Okay. Trevor?
Thank you, Mr. Spurgeon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. As Mr. Spurgeon noted, we currently have a vacancy on the council. State statute provides one particular way to fill that depending on the times involved. So the first option that we have before you is until July 11th of 2023, this body has the ability to appoint a person to fill the currently vacant Ward 4 council seat. Anyone who'd be considered for that appointment would have to meet all their criteria that they would otherwise have to meet to run for that seat. So what that means is they would have had to live in the ward for 6 months. They would have had to have been a registered voter for that same amount of time. There's no set process under state law to consider the appointments. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, but it's a pretty open-ended process. But at the end of it, what you would have is an open meeting where you'd have to have a majority of the sitting council members vote for the appointment. Now, if that's not done within 60 days of the seat becoming vacant, there's a kind of an option B that's available. So if by July 11th the body has not filled that vacancy by appointment, the appointment process is no longer an option. And so what has to happen would be council would have to file a resolution calling for a special election to fill the seat. Now, the same provisions for the candidate would apply as for the person that you'd appoint. Anyone who would want to fill that seat would have to file a candidacy. They would have to be a resident of the ward for 6 months. They would have to be registered to vote for that 6-month period. We would, as any special election, this body would pass a resolution calling for the special election. We would get with the Tulsa County Election Board. We'd see when the next special elections are available. And looking at the election dates and deadlines from the Tulsa County Election Board, you have to file a resolution calling for a special election at least 60 days before the special election. And so the next special elections coming up are July 11th, August 8th, September 12th, October 10th. But obviously, to meet that 60-day lead time, the earliest that a special election could be held, if council voted to do so, would be September 12th, which is the second Tuesday of September, meaning a resolution calling for the special election would have been passed and turned in to the election board by July the 13th. So I know that's a lot of information, but the key takeaway is in the next 60 days to fill the vacancy, it'd be by appointment. If this body does not fill a vacancy by appointment in the next 60 days or July 11th, then it has to be by a special election.
Two questions, if I can, Mayor. If the council chooses to appoint someone in 60 days, what is that person serves until when? And then if they go to the election, when is that person that wins serve till? So just mention those two things.
That's an excellent question. So the current unexpired term for the Ward 4 seat expires April 19th, 2027 at noon. State law says it's the second Monday following the general municipal election, which would be April 6th of 2027. Okay, so keep in mind April of 2027 is when the unexpired term of the current Ward 4 seat ends. Now, if this body decides to fill the vacancy by an appointment, the person who is appointed only serves until the next general election for the city, meaning that's going to be April of 2025. So it's not the entire unexpired term for the Ward 4 seat. That's by appointment. So essentially it would be for a 2-year period, and then there would be a general election. The person you appointed would have the ability to file for that seat, or it would be open to anyone else who would meet the requirements. Again, the residency requirements that we talked about. So that's how the process works for appointment. If it was filled by a special election, the winner of that special election would serve the entire unexpired term, which would be April of 2027. And so it would be the full term, so it would be longer.
Yeah, a term and a half, basically. Well, no, they would just serve, well, a few months shy of a term and a half, because he
They
just
would
got
just-
elected in April.
They would just serve the full term.
The full
It's for the
term,
full, yeah.
the full
They would
term, not a
serve
term
the
and a
full-
half.
They'd
So
serve the full
if the
term.
special election was in September 12th of
I
2023,
mean, if you're appointed and he got elected, or she got elected, they would be a term and a half, basically, is what they would have. Because in 2025, they would have been on for 2 years almost, and then if they got reelected, it would be,
But just, it would be,
Oh, if they
got reelected.
if you appointed them and they
Yeah.
were reelected?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
okay.
that's right. Another way of thinking of it would be they would complete their appointed term, and then if they were elected, they would be elected to a full term.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, because I was thinking if we did a special election, then they still had to do the election again in 2025. That is what I
or
was,
27. Yeah.
no, I thought they
I
had
think
to
the email
be.
that we got today, that's because I didn't think it sounded right, but that's, I think how you read, I read it the same way you did.
Okay,
Where it looked
yeah.
like if we had a special election, they would still have to run in 2025, but.
And then they'd only serve 2 years and have to be reelected again
Yeah.
in 2027.
So if we do a special election, they will serve the rest of the term and could be reelected if they run again in 2027.
Right. If it's a special election, whoever is elected will serve out the remaining of the unexpired term until April of 2027. If it's an appointment, that appointment only lasts until the next general election, April of 2025, and at that point, there'll be a general election to fill the seat. The person who's appointed obviously has the ability to run for that seat, or anyone else who meets the residency requirements and files for candidacy.
This special election, though, they could go ahead and serve that term, just trying to get it, make sure that, talking the same here. So the special election, they would serve all the way, just like the normal seat would have served altogether. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But you're also saying that we couldn't decide today, we are just gonna do a special election and say the 60 days starts now until we can't ask for a special election until July.
Correct. So
Okay.
the only option that you have until July 11th of 2023 is to appoint for the seat. The statute has 2 shalls in it. The first shall is to appoint within that 60 days, but then it has this caveat that if it's not filled, and there could be for any number of reasons, maybe there's no majority to fill the appointment, or there's not a motion to fill the appointment. Regardless of the reason, after July 11th, the ability to appoint is gone, and then the only option is a special election, and that has to be called for.
I talked to Trevor that if council chooses a special election for the meeting and for the vote in September the 12th, we'd have to have a special election after the 11th, which would be before our July 17th meeting, in order to meet the 60-day requirement.
If I could speak to that a little bit, Mr. Spurgeon, it is, and we do work with the election board on these issues, and I would want to have an opportunity to speak to them before we give you exact dates. But just to give you an idea of the complicated nature of it, in order to pass that resolution, you have to have a filing period that's designated, and you have to make sure that it's a full 3 days, but it can't be more than 20 days from the date of the resolution. And then you also have to make sure that the date of this special general election is not less than 45 days after the close of the filing period. So you got to kind of do some math on here. I did some back of the envelope calculations, and it looks like the earliest election date that potentially could be met would be the September 12th special election date. Again, that's the second Tuesday of September. Now, the resolution would have to be due and turned into the election board by July the 13th. That's 60 days before the election. Now, keep in mind, the appointment date runs through July the 11th of 2023, and we'd have to turn in a resolution to the election board by July the 13th. So that really only leaves you 1 day, which is Wednesday, July the 13th. If that was the body's desire, if they wanted to try to do the 12th, that would be one option. That would probably meet those dates. Again, I only put a little asterisk behind that because I wanted to talk to the election board. But the next available election, if for some reason we weren't able to meet that, would be the October 10th.
So the special election would be you have to be from that ward to run, of course, but it's still a citywide election.
Yes, sir.
Correct? There's no change in that.
No, sir.
And there's no penalty for waiting on that. Just if we sit and wait and that date comes, there's no problem if we go ahead and do it at that time. I mean, it's not like we're putting it off. Like, I'm really personally for the special election. So, but there's no penalty in doing that and not appointing somebody. Is that correct?
You're correct on that. And not only is there no penalty, it's not authorized by law to call the election before the 60th day.
Okay.
So, again, the procedure would be first 60 days, appointment process. If council does not fill the vacancy by appointment, special election.
Just the longer you wait, the longer the ward is unrepresented.
That's correct, right? So that's absolutely right. And because you have to have, again, looking at the dates that we've looked at, even if the earliest that you could do a special election would be September the 12th, so you're talking 4 months from now. Yeah, I think that's right. If it was a special election, September 12th would be the earliest we could meet the resolution date deadline.
And then it's my understanding it's about $45,000 for our
Yes.
citizens get to pay for that. Just wanted to point that out.
About $45,000, I heard someone say how much?
Yeah.
$45,000.
Yes, $45,000 is what Curtis's estimate is for the cost for the special election.
I'm leaning towards a special election too, just because he didn't, he just served a month and it's like 4 years. It makes more sense to me the way you presented it to where they would be until the 27th.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, because I'm the same way. I don't, by the time we get there, it'll be what? They're serving 3.5 years. Not 4 years, but
Right.
but still, it's 3.5 years, not 6 months.
And I don't feel like it's not that Ward 4 would not be represented because we all get calls from all wards. We represent the whole city. So I don't feel like they wouldn't be represented. They just wouldn't have someone from their ward representing them, I guess is my thinking.
Yeah.
If it was
I
turned the
don't-
other way, it might be something you'd think about. If it was only 2 or 3 more months or 4 months.
Absolutely.
A short period. I really don't have problems with the appointment of one. It's just such a long period. I think it's better. Democracy more demonstrated when the public gets to vote, I think.
Yeah.
Well, we do have some citizens signed up to speak, so we can listen to them real quick and then
We should listen to
have
them
further,
first.
have further discussion. Cindy Starr? Hi there.
Good evening, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk. I've really appreciated hearing all of your opinions because in some ways we're kind of on the same page. First of all, it is very unfortunate that Mr. Franco resigned, and just to keep him in our prayers. And I'll just say, and some things were mentioned, but reasons that I don't see an appointment is good is because there's always the opportunity that the individual could feel obligated to the people that appointed them and be more, this is just my opinion, could maybe be a little more easily swayed. Not that you yourselves would be doing it, but the individual, because they've been given this opportunity, hey, I've been appointed, I need to go with what they feel. That's just my opinion, that's a possibility. But, and I think some of you had said, about the democracy. We as the citizens, of course, we want that opportunity to vote. We've had, even in this last election, it was so great to get out and to just how can you not go out and vote? We are so blessed in this nation to be able to vote. And so in that, just like some of you had indicated, that I know myself and others that I've talked to want that opportunity to be able to vote, to be able to fill this seat. So that's just where I'm coming from. But thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
And you
Thank
have
you,
a good
ma'am.
night. Thank you.
And then the second one is Bill Thummel.
Try not to be too nervous. Hello, my name is Bill Thummel. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, and City Manager. I just wanted to give a little bit of bio on myself because I want to present myself for a candidate for the Ward 4 seat in the future. Just a little bit about myself, or a lot, I guess. I've been a long-time resident of Broken Arrow. I did have a short stint in Coweta. But I grew up here. We lived at 111th and Garnett in the Stacy Lynn neighborhood, and went to elementary school at Leisure Park Elementary, went there for kindergarten, first. Then we moved to a little more in town, went to Linwood, finished up there, then went to Sequoia, then South, then the high school. I was in the Pride of Broken Arrow. I got to sing in the choir. Didn't play football, believe it or not. I did have the opportunity to go to school here and work here. I worked my first job where I met my wife. We've been married for 21 years at Brahms on North Elm.
You got married at Brahms?
No, we met there. We met there. Spent many a nights talking on that payphone that was in the lobby, which most people may not know or remember any of those. But also worked at Jiffy Lube there and Applebee's. When Applebee's is one of the only two real restaurants that were in Broken Arrow. Since then, I've attended Tulsa Community College, obtained my associate's degree in fire protection technology, a liberal arts degree, and a nursing degree from Tulsa Community College. Also became an EMT and obtained my another associate's degree in paramedic technology from Rogers State University, and then was hired at Broken Arrow Fire Department in 2006. I very recently retired from the fire department, but since then I was a part of the drum and pipe corps that we had with Chief Stewart and Chief Stroop and firefighter Moody. We went to, as we saw earlier, several funerals and got to volunteer and do those things. I also was able to serve on a state rules rewrite EMS board. So we wrote the rules for all the EMS services in the state of Oklahoma. I was able to serve through the Broken Arrow Fire Department on that board. So recently retired. I also, before I retired, obtained my nurse practitioner degree and was certified. I currently work at Broken Arrow Urgent Care, which is behind Reesers at 1130 East Lansing. Continuing to serve the community. I thought in the distant future I would think about running for a seat. I don't think anybody expected any of this to happen, but I just wanted to. I'm not well known. My dad worked for the city almost as long as Mr. Parks is here. He started in '84, so from '84 all the way through we were sent there. But that to say, I just wanted to continue to serve the community if that's possible anyway.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. So Trevor, is tonight for making the decision or just having a discussion and coming back for a decision?
That's really at council's discretion. If you were looking for recommendations, I think what would make the most sense is for council to decide on some type of appointment process, if that's the direction that they wanted to go, and then place this item on a future council agenda before the July 11th deadline. Alternatively, if that's not the desire of council, we would look towards having potentially a special meeting, or at a future council meeting placing an item on regarding calling the special election. We really just need direction on how council would like to proceed.
Okay.
So regardless of what we do, we can't call for a special election until July anyway.
That's correct.
So if we wanted to wait,
I would think
it
that-
wouldn't make a difference.
I would think that it would, the difference might be in people deciding to run or not. You know, they might, I think the sooner they know, that would be better. I'm not saying we need to make a decision tonight, I'm not
Right.
saying that. But I just don't want to wait a long time if the council is in agreement that we want to go to the special election, which I am. But it doesn't mean it has to be tonight, but I do think it needs to be pretty soon, and that way the public knows what we're looking at or what they might look at if they're wanting to run.
All right. Well, we couldn't do one until September 12th anyway, so that gives them,
Well, we
they couldn't
could,
file for.
right, but if they know that our intention, I mean, we're sitting here, we think this, but if, you know, our intention is to go ahead and do that, you know, maybe we do that in the next council meeting or something, and let them know that's our direction, knowing that we could change our mind, but that really, that if we're all in unanimous,
Right.
all four of us unanimous to that, it lets them know what we're thinking anyway.
Yeah. Trevor, when would they file? If,
Yeah, that's a good question. The filing as a candidate for the nonpartisan election is governed by Section 16-110. So it's going to depend on working with the election board when the 3-day filing period is going to be. The resolution calling for the election actually has to say what the 3-day filing period is, and that's where we're trying to find those dates that are not more than 20 days from the date of the resolution, right? But then, again, not less than 45 days from the date of the special election. So it kind of looks like it might be a filing
It's going to
period.
be quick after the.
Yeah.
It would be pretty
If
quick.
you look, if you apply February, the first week of February is the filing and withdrawal, and then the election is less than 60 days
Right.
later.
Yeah.
So it'll be
So-
quick.
It
It'll be quick.
would
after
be
July
if,
15th.
for example, let's say there was a special meeting called on July the 12th, then you're looking for the 3-day filing period being sometime between July the 13th and July the 28th. But
Okay.
they generally suggest that you do it as soon as you can, as early as possible.
so the sooner we make a decision, then we can at least be telling people, even though we can't make the resolution until July, this is when the filing dates will be, because we'll know this is what we're doing, if we're going for a special election.
I mean, staff certainly can be prepared if that's the direction that we're given. But again, yeah, there's no official action could be taken until after that 60 days.
So let me ask this, Trevor. So if the council on the next agenda wanted to put on and pass it, just basically vote that we want to go to special election and then just put everything on hold until the special meeting we would have to call it, can they do, could they do that?
They could do that. It would be subject to revision, though, before the 60 days runs. If someone changes their mind and wanted to put it on the agenda
Yeah.
to do an appointment, they have the ability to do that.
Right.
So I guess what I'm saying, it would be non-binding.
I just want to be as transparent as possible, and if we do decide to do the special election, let people already
Exactly.
think about the process and what they
Yeah.
want to do. I mean, just giving them a 2 or 3 day turnaround is not,
Right,
that's not very much time, for sure.
right.
Yeah.
And don't try to read that paper that Trevor is trying to read, because I've been through 7 elections and I can't read it at all. So we can put it on to maybe the next agenda that we, that's our goal, is to do that. We're in agreement to do that.
Yes, we can put on a non-binding action, as Trevor said, by the council on the June 5th meeting that just expresses council's position at that point. And there's only one other regular council meeting before that, which is the 19th, and then we only have one meeting in July. So once we know that, then the staff can work to make sure that we know what date we'd have to have a special meeting after the 60 days in order to meet the deadline for the September 2nd election.
Right.
But if somebody, what Trevor's saying, if somebody wanted to, on the 5th, wanted to bring forth a name, then I would put it on the agenda for them to, or the 19th, you'd have to, would be non-binding, so the council could possibly have to,
understand
you get a
that.
motion in second.
Right.
And
Well, that
just one
fiscally-
clarification, that it'd be September the 12th.
September 12th, that's
Yes,
what I
sir.
meant.
Yeah, so the fiscally responsible side of me doesn't want to spend $45,000, but, so I go back and forth on, but I understand having the vote of the people who just got it stolen from them, they chose, so having the opportunity to vote again.
Well, we'll have to amend the budget to include that.
Right. So if I'm hearing this, so we're leaning towards a special election, we'll put it on the agenda, and if something changes before then, we have the opportunity, because it's not binding right now.
You'd have 2 weeks to think about it, and then we'll put an agenda item on there, and the council members can think about it. And at that point, you can continue the conversation.
Okay.
So do I need to make a motion to table this at this point?
You certainly have the ability to do that if you'd like to table this for discussion in 2 weeks. If there's further direction or consensus of instructing the city manager to place this on as an item to consider a vote on a potential non-binding intention of the body, that would be, we could do that as well. I'm kind of trying to work on the fly here.
Non-binding item of the body.
We got it.
It's non-binding anyway until that date, whatever we do.
Right.
So-
Yes, sir.
Right.
So that's a motion?
Is
That's
that
my
your
motion, is to table this till.
Okay. All right, do we have a second?
Okay, let's table it with it being put on as a non-binding next time. I second it.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call?
Have you got that?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Clear as
said
mud.
motion to table, clear as mud.
I got it.
Okay.